Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to be looking into a silent, hidden crisis that's literally affecting millions of people right under our noses. I mean, we're talking about individuals who look perfectly typical, who are right there in our daily lives, our schools, our workplaces, and yet they're struggling with this immense, invisible weight that society has just kind of failed to recognize. It's a deeply, deeply important topic, and truly understanding it, well, it requires us to completely shift our perspective on intelligence, capability, and how we offer support.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at a real, intensely personal story from a young woman named Miyu. Her whole life, Miyu faced some incredibly harsh, dismissive words from the people around her. When she struggled, society didn't step up to help. It just offered judgment. People told her it was just laziness or a lack of effort. She actually described her experience in the workforce as an infinite loop of quitting jobs. Like she was constantly crashing against this invisible wall she just couldn't understand. Section 1. The Invisible Struggle.
You know, the core tragedy of this condition is how perfectly it hides behind a normal appearance. To give you an idea of what this looks like in the real world, Miyu had to quit over 10 part-time jobs in just a year and a half. 10! And the thing is, every time she started a new job, there was this initial warm welcome. But pretty quickly, those hidden struggles would surface. Her cognitive processing was simply slower than her peers, making it incredibly hard for her to follow complex instructions or avoid making mistakes. And those welcoming smiles from her coworkers, they quickly turned into frustration, anger, and eventually total isolation for Miyu. She was trapped in this awful cycle where her perceived incompetence was exposed after just a couple of months, which naturally led to intense, crushing self-blame.
Section 2. What exactly is borderline intelligence? Let's take a look. To really understand why Miyu and so many others face these barriers, we need to move from the emotional reality to the statistical and scientific facts. So the crucial point is that borderline intellectual functioning refers to an IQ range strictly between 70 and 84. In standard testing, an IQ of 100 is your average. Now, if your IQ is below 70, you're generally diagnosed with an intellectual disability, which then opens the door to governmental and societal support. But this specific group, the 70 to 84 range, they fall right in the middle. They are completely caught in a blind spot. They fall just outside the threshold for official disability support, and yet they face very real cognitive challenges compared to the average population. And honestly, the scale of this is truly staggering. When we look at the stats, roughly 14% of the population falls into this borderline intellectual functioning category. 14%. That means about 1 in every 7 people you meet. Think about it like this. In a standard school classroom of 35 students, statistical probability tells us that about 5 of those kids are dealing with these invisible struggles every single day. To put that into absolute numbers for Japan, which is where our source materials focus, that equates to approximately 17 million people. Just think about that for a second. 17 million people, that is a population larger than the entire city of Tokyo, living with a condition that goes almost entirely unrecognized and unsupported. It's wild. Section 3. The High Education Paradox. This leads us to a fascinating and highly misunderstood aspect of this condition. There's this prevailing stereotype that having a borderline IQ means you must be uneducated, but the data absolutely proves otherwise. Let's look at Shinji's story. Shinji is a 35-year-old university grad who actually went to a highly competitive university. From the outside, the guy looks like a massive success story. But when he finally took an IQ test as an adult, the results showed a massive discrepancy. His verbal comprehension, his ability to read, memorize, and understand text, was high, over 110. This allowed him to basically brute force his way through the education system. But his processing speed and working memory, those were below 90. So in a fast-paced corporate environment, when he was asked to multitask or process live information in a meeting, his performance would completely plummet. People would look at him and say, "You graduated from a top university, why can't you do this simple task?" The gap between his academic credentials and his cognitive processing speed created this profound, totally unexplained struggle at work. And this brilliantly illustrates the day-to-day reality of the condition. Another individual, Waltz, summarized it perfectly in his writings. He noted that borderline intelligence isn't a total lack of ability, it's a processing cost issue. To use his metaphor, doing the exact same daily task feels like full-speed sprinting while everyone else is just jogging. I mean, they can finish the race, they can do the task, but the cognitive energy it takes to process abstract information, organize thoughts, and manage simultaneous tasks leaves them absolutely exhausted. Section 4. The societal blind spot. Now we have to zoom out and ask, how on earth did we get here? How did an entire demographic of 17 million people just fall off the radar? Let's move to and see how this builds historically. Prior to the 1980s, an IQ of up to 84 was actually included under the umbrella of intellectual disability. This meant people in this range had access to special education and much-needed support. However, over time, a strict modern-day cutoff of an IQ of 70 was established. The definition changed, sure, but human needs didn't. By just shifting a bureaucratic line, society effectively stripped away support for millions, creating what advocates call a forgotten generation, who are expected to perform just like the average population, but without any safety nets whatsoever. And the sources report that the societal consequences of abandoning this group have been, frankly, devastating. According to Dr. Koji Miyaguchi, a child psychiatrist who works with juvenile offenders, there is an estimated 40% overlap between borderline intellectual functioning and prison populations. 40%! Without early support, many of these individuals are easily manipulated or just unable to navigate complex societal rules. The sources highlight some deeply tragic, extreme examples of this too. Take a nursing assistant at a Shiga hospital who gave a false confession to a crime simply because she wanted to please the investigating detective. She was unable to visualize the long-term reality of a murder charge. In another tragic incident at an airport, a young woman made catastrophic, fatal decisions because of an inherent cognitive inability to predict the future outcomes of her immediate actions. These aren't just isolated mistakes. They are the severe result of poor forward planning combined with a total lack of societal support. And the root of these adult tragedies? They almost always start in childhood. Take the case of Sikun, a 10-year-old fourth grader. Testing revealed his processing skills were at the level of a 7-year-old. Just imagine being a first grader forced to sit through fourth grade math classes every single day. The inevitable result was that he just couldn't keep up, he was bullied for his poor performance, and eventually he completely refused to go to school. It's heartbreaking. A misdiagnosis in his early years led to a total loss of confidence. Section 5. Reclaiming the label. Let's talk about some solutions.
Because this definitely isn't where the story has to end. Once we understand the problem, we can actually start looking at very real, actionable solutions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we choose to view the diagnosis itself. Walt writes that getting this label, discovering you have a borderline IQ, should not be a source of shame. As he puts it, the label is not a lack of ability, but a map to adjust your environment. It's a tool for self-awareness. It allows individuals to stop blaming themselves for being lazy and instead start asking for the specific workplace accommodations and processing time they actually need to thrive.
And there are highly practical ways to build capability. Dr. Miyagashi advocates for a system known as CogTree, which is short for cognitive training. You can think of this as building the foundational, basic physical strength of the brain. Before a child can learn complex math or reading, they need the cognitive stamina to process information. CogTree focuses on 5 basic pillars: remembering, counting, copying, finding, and imagining. By practicing these fundamental skills, individuals can literally strengthen their cognitive foundations. The science of neuroplasticity backs this up beautifully, too. Our brains are plastic, meaning they can adapt and rewire themselves. So, while a person's overall IQ score might not take a massive, sudden jump, their specific executive functions, their focus, and their information processing can absolutely be trained and improved. The goal here isn't to force someone to become a completely different person. Not at all. The goal is to adjust the processing method and tailor the environment so they can succeed just as they are. Look, you wouldn't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, right? So we definitely shouldn't judge someone with slow processing speed by their ability to instantly multitask. Which leaves us with this final thought. 14% of the population, 1 in 7 people, they're in our families, our classrooms, and our offices, often hiding perfectly behind a normal appearance while absolutely exhausting themselves just to keep up. So ask yourself, who in your life is sprinting in silence? And more importantly, now that you know what to look for, how can you help adjust their track? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a new, empathetic lens through which to view the people around you.